Hey everybody, welcome to your first remote learning day for 2D design. So today we're going to look at your first actual art project. We always do this preliminary art project because 2D design is about composition and this is a project about composition. So this is called the black square problem. And what we're going to do, what I'd like you to try to do by your next class period is to have your preliminary kind of brainstorming sketch ideas done, so that you can start your good project. And I'll show you some examples of that, and I'll explain the project. So first off, like I said, 2D design is about composition. And what I like about this project is that it asks you to create an interesting composition with really limited resources. So let me read this to you. By using 4 black squares, create a graphic image that best expresses the meaning of each of the following 6 words: congested, order, tension, increase, playful, bold. Some of you guys, if you were here Thursday, you might have got this worksheet you can do this on. You don't need the worksheet. You can just do it on a piece of paper. You can do it on white paper. If you don't even have white paper, you can use notebook paper and a pencil. If you have a black pen or a Sharpie, that'll work even better. The sketchbook stuff, I haven't given you guys sketchbooks yet. We'll make some sketchbooks next week, but you can do this on any kind of paper, and I'd like you to try to get this done over the weekend. So here's some examples of a finished black square project. So this is a pretty good one, and this is kind of like the finished project. It's nice, it's very neat, it's very sharp. It's also just a little dull. If you haven't figured out which one this shows, this is increase, because each box gets progressively bigger. So the rules of the project work like this. You can use 4 squares. They can be in any kind of position or place you want them to be. You can run them off the page. So there's your frame. You can run them outside the frame of the box, so you don't have to show the entire square. And one thing to make it a little more interesting for you guys is that you can cheat, but you can only cheat in one way for each one. You don't have to, but if you'd like to, you can cheat, break one rule to make the project a little more interesting. So for example, congested. If you don't know what that means, I asked you to look it up. You know, you feel congested, you can't blow your nose, it's all clogged up. Congested means things are jammed, they can't get together, they're all stuck. So this person did congested, and they did their congested, they broke the rule how many squares they could have. They had way more squares than they were allowed to have. So you can add, you can break that rule. You can have 4 or you can have 40, okay? So that's another thing you can do. Here's an example of somebody broke a rule. They had something other than a square. They had a circle, okay? So when I say break the rules, you can, it still needs to basically have squares in it. It still needs to more or less be the same project, but if you can kind of change something. So, you know, it's supposed to be 4 black squares. This person included a blue circle. This was increase. The images increased from dark, or from light to dark, and the blue circle was just there to create a more interesting image. One of my favorites. So, lots and lots of ways. Here's one over here. This is, they used color. They just created a color background. They actually broke 2 rules, so little points taken off for this. You can't have more than 4 squares and use color, because then you just broke 2 rules. Too many squares and not black squares, you used color. So this project is all about, you know, like following this rule to really limit your composition, but still trying to show these concepts: order, tension, increase, playful, and bold. So obviously you're going to have 6 examples that you've done, 6 kind of like practice ideas. You're going to pick one of these to create a full image from. Another example. I believe this one was probably congested. It definitely looks congested. A lot of the squares, and then they had this interesting thing where the squares overlap, and it's white there. Now, some folks get really creative with it. They come up with some really creative ideas, and I love creative ideas. If you really go overboard breaking the rules, you're going to get some points taken off. You won't get a perfect grade. This is Danny Raps from last year, and it's crazy because the squares are like made of slime. They're dripping from the ceiling, and then there's this giant square with a tongue. I mean, it definitely breaks more than one rule because it's like, yeah, the black squares, there's too many of them, then there's like slime. It's just crazy. There's like tongues, there's teeth, but it makes a really interesting piece. And so, you know, you'll get a really good grade if you come up with something that's really creative, but you won't get a perfect grade if you do break too many rules. Just keep that in mind. So we will work on this project. I'll give you the correct paper for it, the larger size square. And I don't have an example. I think I do have an example somewhere. Oh, yeah, right here. It's on this one again. Also, you can break the frame. Look at that square. It's outside of the frame. So that's another thing you can do. You can break. You can have squares that just bust out, break through the frame. So guys, this is all about trying to be creative with a really limited, you know, resource, a limited thing to use, just 4 black squares, and trying to still show in composition the feeling. So, you know, the idea is if you're trying to create in any kind of composition, if it's people, if it's nature, if it's just objects, whatever, you can create a feeling in your viewer based on how you compose your artwork, and that's what this assignment's all about. So guys, have your preliminary practice, have your 6 done, do it on a sheet of paper if you don't have the worksheet. I'll attach the worksheet to the assignment. If you have a printer, you can print it out and do it on there. If you don't have a printer, you can't get the worksheet, just draw 4 boxes on a piece of or 6 boxes on a piece of paper, write the words, and the words will be on the assignment. Write the words and do your composition for each one. You can use, like I said, pencil, pen, Sharpie, whatever you happen to have. I'll get you the proper things to do the good assignment next time we're in class. If you're a remote learner, and so I got 2 of you guys in this class right now, and you're not coming to school at all, you're going to need some kind of white square to do this assignment on, and like a Sharpie or a good black marker to do this with. You know, if you could come to school, I can supply you that stuff, but if you're at home, I can't. So you'll have to either figure out how to get it yourself or something. So, all right, thanks for paying attention. See you next week.